If you feel that strange sensation in your feet or your hands, as if thousands of invisible needles are pricking you all at once, relentlessly without warning, or if you have ever woken up in the middle of the night because the mere weight of your bed sheets resting on your toes was absolutely unbearable, then what I am about to share with you today could literally change the course of your life. Do not close this video. What you are living through is not simply poor circulation. It is not an inevitable consequence of getting older either. It is a biological distress signal. It is your nerves screaming that they are starving to death. And the painful truth is that conventional medicine misses this every single day. Doctors see the symptoms, prescribe painkillers or anticonvulsants to mask the sensations, and send patients home without ever addressing the root cause. But the good news, and this is exactly why you are here right now, is that in the vast majority of cases, this nerve destruction is not irreversible. For years, I have been studying the health of seniors, and I have witnessed with my own eyes patients who had completely given up on ever feeling the ground beneath their feet again, who could no longer button their own shirt in the morning, who were genuinely afraid to walk on an uneven sidewalk, gradually and steadily recovering their abilities, not through more powerful medications, not through surgery, through a precise understanding of what was happening inside their nerve cells, and through a targeted metabolic correction that addressed the problem at its source. Before I tell you about the solutions, I need to walk you through the problem in full detail. Because if you do not understand the mechanism, you cannot correct it. The condition we are talking about is called peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral as in your extremities, your hands and your feet, neuro as in nerves, pathy as in suffering, the suffering of the peripheral nerves. It begins quietly. Perhaps you have that impression of walking on a bunched up sock when you are completely barefoot, or perhaps your feet feel ice cold to the touch but burn from the inside. These are contradictory signals your brain is receiving because the cable connecting it to your foot is slowly fraying apart. 1. The invisible mechanism that has been destroying your nerves for years. To truly understand what is happening to your nerves, I want you to visualize something very simple. Imagine a raw egg. The white is transparent, liquid, soft, and flexible. Now imagine that same egg cracked open onto a scorching hot pavement in the middle of summer. It turns white, hard, and brittle. That is exactly what excess sugar does to the proteins inside your body. When blood sugar remains slightly elevated over the course of years, a condition that is extraordinarily common among people with prediabetes or insulin resistance, it creates a kind of toxic, sticky residue that gradually accumulates on your nerve endings. This residue is scientifically known as advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, which is unfortunately a very fitting name because they accelerate the aging of your tissues at a dramatically faster pace than normal. This sugar rust, as I like to call it, comes to clog the microscopic blood vessels called vasa nervorum, which are entirely responsible for feeding and nourishing your nerves. When these tiny capillaries become blocked, the nerve begins to suffocate. It is like someone locked inside a room where the oxygen is being slowly and quietly removed. In the beginning, it sends out panic signals that you experience as burning pain, electric shocks, or those sudden and inexplicable jolts that jolt you awake at night. Then, if the suffocation continues long enough, the nerve simply gives up. It dies, and when it dies, the pain stops. It is replaced by something far more dangerous than pain. It is replaced by numbness. And I must warn you very seriously here. Pain is a warning, numbness is silence. And in this specific context, silence is a silent medical emergency that cannot be ignored. When you can no longer feel your feet, a small cut can turn into an ulcer. An infection can set in, and in extreme cases, this can lead to complications you do not want to even imagine. This is why we must act before that silence becomes permanent. Now, your body is not completely defenseless against this sugar rust. It possesses a remarkable enzyme called transscatolase, which functions like a specialized molecular vacuum cleaner. Its role is to absorb the toxic waste products created by excess sugar and convert them into usable cellular energy. When this enzyme is running at full capacity, your nerves are protected, clean, flexible, and fully conductive. But here lies the fundamental problem. This vacuum cleaner requires a very specific fuel in order to operate. Without this fuel, it simply sits in a corner, switched off, while the rust accumulates and continues destroying the nerve from the inside out. That indispensable fuel is vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. Thiamine is the ignition key for your entire nerve repair engine. Without it, destruction is unavoidable. 2. Why your multivitamin is doing absolutely nothing for your nerves. You may be thinking right now that you are already protected because you take a daily multivitamin or because you eat cereals fortified with B1. This is an extremely widespread misconception, and it could be putting your nerve health at serious risk. The form of B1 found in virtually all low-cost dietary supplements and fortified foods is called thiamine mononitrate or thiamine hydrochloride. These forms are water-soluble. They are cheap to produce, but your body absorbs them very poorly, and this problem worsens considerably as you age. As we get older, the lining of our digestive tract changes significantly. We produce less stomach acid. Our capacity to transport water-soluble nutrients across the intestinal wall decreases dramatically. Studies suggest that when you swallow a standard B1 tablet, only about 5% of it actually reaches your bloodstream, and an even smaller fraction manages to penetrate inside the nerve cells themselves. Why this additional barrier? Because your nerve cells are wrapped in a protective fatty layer called the myelin sheath. Trying to push a water-soluble vitamin through a fat-soluble membrane is like trying to mix oil and water together. It simply does not work. You could have completely normal B1 levels in your blood while your nerves are still starving because the nutrient cannot get inside the cell where it is actually needed. The solution to this biological blockade is called benfotiamine. Benfotiamine is not simply a better version of B1, it is structurally different at a molecular level. It is a fat-soluble derivative of thiamine. Because it is fat-soluble, it does not need a special transport protein to enter your body. It slides effortlessly through cell membranes, through the intestinal wall, through the walls of blood vessels, and most critically, straight through the fatty myelin sheath that surrounds your nerve fibers. Research published in the International Journal of Clinical Pharmacology has demonstrated that benfotiamine raises active thiamine levels in nerve tissue by up to 360% compared to standard thiamine supplements. That is the difference between throwing a glass of water on a burning building and connecting a high-pressure fire hose. You also need to be aware that certain very common medications actively make this deficiency worse. Metformin, used by millions of people with diabetes, is known to block the absorption of vitamin B12 and to interfere with B1 metabolism. Diuretics, commonly prescribed for high blood pressure, force the kidneys to eliminate fluids, and water-soluble vitamins like B1 are flushed out right along with them. Antacids taken chronically for acid reflux also destroy the body's capacity to absorb B vitamins effectively. This is a bitter irony. The very medications prescribed to manage the conditions that cause neuropathy, such as diabetes and high blood pressure, can in reality accelerate nerve damage by stripping away the nutrients required for repair. This is not a reason to stop your prescribed treatment, as that would be genuinely dangerous, but it is a compelling and urgent reason to supplement intelligently and strategically. 3. The complete nerve repair protocol step by step. Now that you fully understand the problem, let us talk about the concrete solution. The first pillar, as we have discussed, is benfotiamine. But repairing the structural damage that has already accumulated inside your nerves requires more than one nutrient working alone. The second pillar is alpha-lipoic acid, commonly referred to as ALA. Unlike most antioxidants, which function only in water-based or only in fat-based environments, ALA operates in both environments simultaneously. This unique property allows it to travel into every single compartment of the nerve cell. Its primary role is to reduce oxidative stress, that biological rust we have been discussing throughout this video. In Germany, alpha-lipoic acid has been approved as a formal medical treatment for diabetic neuropathy for several decades now. The research is robust and highly consistent. It demonstrates that ALA improves nerve conduction velocity, meaning the speed at which an electrical signal travels along the length of the nerve. When your nerves conduct signals faster, your balance improves. You feel the ground beneath your feet instantly, without that alarming delay you may have noticed. One important warning here: most inexpensive supplements on the market use a 50-50 mixture of S-lipoic acid, the synthetic form, and R-lipoic acid, the natural form. The synthetic version is poorly absorbed and can actually block the action of the natural version. Look specifically for stabilized R-lipoic acid. It costs more, but it is biologically identical to what your own body produces naturally. The third pillar is vitamin B12, but only in the form of methylcobalamin. This vitamin is the construction worker of nerve repair. It is absolutely essential for synthesizing the myelin sheath. Without it, your nerves are like bare electrical wires that short circuit at every point of contact. Never take cyanocobalamin, the synthetic form found in cheap vitamin products. Always choose methylcobalamin, which is pre-methylated and immediately usable by your cells for active nerve reconstruction. I must also warn you about a hidden danger I encounter surprisingly often. People hear that B vitamins are beneficial for nerve health, so they begin taking a high-dose B complex that contains large amounts of vitamin B6. This can be catastrophic. B6 is unique in the vitamin world because both a deficiency and a toxicity can cause nerve damage. This is known as the B6 paradox. If you take high doses of pyridoxine HCl, the synthetic form, over an extended period, it can accumulate in your tissues and literally destroy nerve endings. I have seen patients taking 100 milligrams of B6 per day, genuinely believing they were helping themselves, while they were actively worsening their neuropathy. The rule for B6 is straightforward. Use the active form called P5P, which stands for pyridoxal 5-phosphate. This form does not accumulate to toxic levels as easily. And keep the dose sensible, generally 25 to 50 milligrams maximum. More is not better, better is better. The fourth pillar is acetyl L-carnitine, often abbreviated as ALCAR. While benfotiamine is clearing the supply lines and B12 is rebuilding the insulation, ALCAR is the energy booster for the mitochondria inside each nerve cell. Nerves are extraordinarily demanding in terms of energy. They consume enormous quantities of cellular fuel to transmit their signals. Research shows that ALCAR helps reduce pain and promotes the regeneration of nerve fibers by improving mitochondrial efficiency. This is particularly valuable if your neuropathy is accompanied by muscle weakness or persistent fatigue throughout the day. The fifth element that is frequently overlooked is magnesium. Magnesium is the mineral of nervous system relaxation. It blocks the NMDA receptors in the nervous system that are responsible for transmitting pain signals. When you are deficient in magnesium, and studies suggest that approximately 70% of seniors are, your pain sensitivity dial is turned up to maximum volume. Taking quality magnesium glycinate in the evening accomplishes two things at the same time. It helps quiet the overactive pain signals so that you can actually sleep through the night, and it supports the enzymatic reactions that B vitamins need to function at their full potential. B1 and magnesium are genuine metabolic partners. They work significantly better together than either does alone. 4. The daily practical protocol and the non-negotiable lifestyle changes. Here is how everything translates into your actual daily routine. Every morning with breakfast, which should contain a minimum amount of healthy fat such as eggs, take 300 milligrams of benfotiamine and 1,000 micrograms of methylcobalamin B12. This floods your system with repair signals precisely at the moment your metabolism is waking up and ramping into full gear. Also take 300 milligrams of stabilized R-lipoic acid in the morning. Some people prefer to take it on an empty stomach for maximum absorption, but if it causes any stomach discomfort, taking it with food is perfectly fine. Add 500 milligrams of acetyl L-carnitine with breakfast to energize your morning and support mitochondrial function from the very start of the day. Every evening with dinner or just before bed, take 200 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate. This prepares your nervous system for its repair and regeneration cycle during sleep, and helps reduce those night cramps and restless leg sensations that so many people suffer from unnecessarily. Now let us talk about the internal environment you are creating inside your body, because this is equally as important as the supplements. You can take all the benfotiamine in the world, but if you keep pouring gasoline on the fire will never go out. The gasoline in this context is chronic inflammation, and it is primarily fueled by two sources you are very likely consuming every single day without fully realizing the damage they are causing. The first is industrial vegetable oils. Soybean oil, canola oil, and corn oil are all extremely rich in omega-6 fatty acids. When consumed in excess, which is virtually unavoidable if you eat any processed or packaged foods, they become incorporated into your cell membranes and make them rigid and highly inflammatory, further blocking nutrient absorption. Switch to stable anti-inflammatory fats such as olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, and real butter. These fats provide the raw building materials your body needs to reconstruct the lipid layers that protect your nerves. The second major source of inflammation is liquid sugar. Sodas, fruit juices, and sweetened teas are like jet fuel for glycation. They cause your blood sugar to spike so rapidly and so severely that your transketolase enzyme is immediately overwhelmed and completely unable to keep pace. Switch to water, plain herbal tea, or black coffee. This one change alone can meaningfully reduce the inflammatory burden on your nerves within just a few weeks of consistent practice. 5. What to realistically expect and how to read the signals your body sends you. I need to prepare you mentally for something I call the nerve awakening. When you begin this protocol, your nerves may start to come back to life. And sometimes coming back to life is uncomfortable. When a nerve that was dormant begins to refire and reconnect, you may experience a temporary increase in tingling, buzzing, or electric shock sensations. Some people contact me saying their symptoms seem to have gotten worse in the first few weeks. My answer is always the same. That can be a good sign. It means the line is becoming active again. Think about a foot that has fallen completely asleep. When you stand up and the blood rushes back in, it hurts, it buzzes, it pulses, it throbs, but that discomfort is the physical sensation of life returning. The same process occurs during neuropathy repair. The typical progression moves through these phases. Numbness, which represents a state of nerve silence, gives way to tingling and buzzing, which represents the awakening phase. The tingling then transitions into burning and heightened sensitivity, which represents the active repair phase, before finally arriving at normal, balanced, comfortable sensation. Do not stop the protocol because you feel more activity happening. That increased activity is often the clearest sign that you are moving out of the zone of permanent silence and back into the territory of living, functioning nerve tissue. Regarding the realistic timeline, here is what you genuinely need to understand and accept. You did not develop this neuropathy overnight. It took years, perhaps even decades of slow and silent accumulation before it announced itself. You will not repair it overnight either. The first 2 weeks represent the saturation phase, where your nutrient levels are simply being rebuilt from a depleted state back to a functional baseline. Weeks 3 through 6 represent the activation phase, during which you will begin to notice real and tangible changes in the sensations you experience. Months 3 through 6 represent the true regeneration phase. This is when you will look back and realize that you went through an entire day without once thinking about your feet, that you buttoned your shirt in the morning without having to watch your fingers carefully, that you walked across an uneven surface without fear. Patience is not simply a virtue in this process, it is a prescription. I want to close by reminding you of something essential. You are not powerless against what is happening to you. The numbness in your feet and hands is a signal, not a life sentence. It is your body telling you that the supply lines are blocked and that the cables are exposed and fraying. You now have the complete map to repair all of that. You understand the critical difference between standard B1, which is nearly useless for your nerves, and benfotiamine, which is genuinely transformative. You understand the power of stabilized R-lipoic acid and methylcobalamin. You know that your medications may be quietly depleting you. You are now the chief executive of your own health. Do not wait for the silence to become permanent. Start nourishing your nerves today. If this in-depth analysis has opened your eyes to how your nervous system truly functions, share this video with someone you love who is suffering in silence right now. Subscribe to this channel because we are building a community of people who refuse to accept decline as inevitable. Your body is designed to heal. You simply need to give it the right tools.